Hello everyone, welcome back to Trek A Day, and here we are, the final episode ever of Star Trek Lower Decks. Starting off with a brief recap of the entire season, leading up to where the last episode left off, with Boimler getting a message from his duplicate about what is really going on with the quantum fissures and what disaster is coming their way. And the episode begins proper with a contingent of Klingon birds of prey encountering the first of this incoming surge of energy, of tachyons, of rifts in space and time, guided towards this particular reality. And as they are hit by a burst with a ship destroyed, the crew of one of the ships is also transformed into the hideous abominations known as the Discovery Klingons. The incoming Soliton wave, this dimension-shifting, reality-destroying, impending disaster, now must be dealt with as the last adventure, possibly ever, of our crew of the Cerritos Star Trek Lower Decks begins. As the connection between the two Boimlers serves as a link to make the Cerritos the ship to head this effort to stop the impending disaster, even as ships like the Enterprise are underway. So while this California-class ship and its crew are seemingly ill-equipped to handle an event of such magnitude, they still are tasked with this lead up to a tremendous finale for not only the season but the show, which really needed a really big episode to give a big epic conclusion, and then also find ways to give a satisfactory conclusion to the story of these characters, because the show's ending and there's always the slim possibility that it could come back in some form. You never know down the road what the future holds, but given the fact that going into the season it seemed like behind the scenes they were fairly certain this would be the end, and this could possibly be the end for good, it really needed to take that opportunity and create a satisfactory conclusion to wrap up everything with these characters that we've known for 5 seasons now. And so after watching the episode, did the episode accomplish that? Well, in some respects it is a satisfactory conclusion, and in other ways it left me wanting. So it's a good wrap-up for this season's plot line. I love the solution to the problem, the bringing in of Starbase 80, giving that a new purpose, giving it a setup, watching over this portal to other realities, almost very kind of a Deep Space Nine setup with that, and with an evolution of the characters, with Captain Freeman moving on to be in charge of Starbase 80 as the home base for the Federation's new avenue of exploration. And so it's an interesting premise and wrap up to that idea, and a great way to move the characters on from the Lower Decks premise that they have been moving away from the past 2 seasons, really, to where they are now more senior officers on their way up, looking to be more of the bridge officers, even potentially for future first officers, with Boimler and Mariner set up to being kind of competition for that eventuality. So it does feel like a good wrap-up to the season's plotline, as well as the Lower Decks concept, as far as staying with these characters. A new generation of characters could be brought in if there was a continuation to be the new Lower Decks characters, the new main cast, and this cast to be more secondary as the higher up, so that could work, but it did feel like wrapping up more of a chapter of these characters' lives, not a whole lot of conclusion, only conclusion in terms of the Lower Decks concept, which really, it felt like it needed to, as much as, it is a good show and would be fun to see more. I think if there was more, I would want to see it move beyond that initial idea as the characters have, and it seems to kind of set that up. So in that way, it's not a great big wrap-up for these characters. It's more of a conclusion to a chapter in their lives and leaves it open for more stories. So it was good. It wasn't quite up to the level of finality that I wish it had, but at the same time, it does then leave the door open for a future comeback to these characters. So even if it never comes back again, Lower Decks is an interesting chapter in Star Trek and something very unique. It's something that is, as I said before, I see it as a very fun, comedic little side show, not one of these main programs that I hold so near and dear to my heart. And as much as I take joy from them and enjoy the moments of silliness, I also in some way take them very seriously, and this is something that is not in that vein. It's something that's kind of a fun little extra to get a different aspect, maybe not just of Star Trek, but of the way of enjoying Star Trek. Kind of, it reminds me of goofing around with other Trekkies and talking about Star Trek that morphed into an animated form, something to watch, something very different, and I think will hold an interesting place in Star Trek, even if we never come back to them. But there is always that possibility. We'll see. There seems to be a bit of a conclusion to this era of Star Trek coming along. Even the Ready Room show, the after show with Will Wheaton, is wrapping up. Of course, Discovery and Picard are over. There are a bunch of new shows on the horizon. Stranger Worlds is continuing. We will see what goes on with season 3 and a definite season 4. What that show is going to be, I still have a worry that it's going to morph into a bit of a TOS remake series over time, and I really hope they don't go that direction. But it seems to be that this era of Star Trek is concluding, and we're getting a new branch that's related, obviously, with shows like the upcoming Starfleet Academy. But I feel like a new chapter is slowly coming along. We'll see how things turn out, and hopefully this new branch of shows, this new era, will improve upon last era as much as there were some things I did like about it. There's a lot more that I disliked. So I don't know. We'll see. This ending of Lower Decks feels almost like an ending of a chapter in the Star Trek saga, and it was good in that fashion, but wasn't quite the send-off I wanted for these characters. So it was like an 8 out of 10 for me overall. I'd love to hear what you thought of the episode and where you see things going from here. Do you think we will see these characters again?